you can only go so far creating questions before you have to start presenting answers, and that's definitely what episode 8 of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation seems to have done. Just a hugely packed episode, and it was great because it was actually well paced, and so I didn't really feel like it didn't feel like an information dump episode because it was all themed around certain things. So I didn't really feel like I was, sitting here having to read a textbook on the history of the Grey Rat family or something. But yeah, so we open up, showing that Eris is actually 12 years old now, and thus Rudy is turning 10 here soon. And as we kind of learned before, I want to say 5 episodes, every 5 years they have like a big celebration. And so Rudy being 10, that's going to be a big celebration. But unfortunately, they can't be public about Rudy's birthday, even though they want to make a big celebration. So Eris is trying to throw a big surprise party for him, outside of the gaze of the public, because as we find out, it's not a good, they don't want public known that Rudy is at the Boris family. And this is like something that they just start getting into over this episode, is that the Grey Rat family is comprised of 4 families, and Paul, Rudy's dad, is Notos, and Notos is one of these 4 families. And as we find out later from Philip, whenever a male is born or a boy is born in the family, the head family will take those boys and raise them in the head family estate. And that is why we finally find out why Hilda, Boris Hilda, is not a fan of Rudy. That's why she always got these really mean looks every time she sees Rudy, and that was because she lost 2 of her boys by the head family taking them. So it was kind of cute to finally get some insight into why Hilda always gives Rudy really negative looks. But going back a little bit, yeah, so we find out that there's 4 main families, and the head one is kind of ran by somebody that apparently is more scummier than Paul, which is quite a feat, as we know. And that because of this, there is a covert mission to replace him. And so there's kind of a power struggle happening in the Grey Rat family, and as we'll find out later, it seems like Philip isn't too against bringing Rudy into the picture with that whole situation. But yeah, so we found out about the 4 families. We found out about the head of the families taking the boys, and obviously Rudy should have been taken as well, but since he isn't, that's why Hilda is kind of doesn't like seeing him. That's because it kind of reminds her that she lost her boys. After that, we kind of get into them, creating the well, they were actually trying to keep it a secret. And as Rudy's trying to, sneak out of the room, he's with Ghislaine, and he knows what's going on. So he's like, well, I'm going to go get something. And Ghislaine's like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, oh, I can't. Okay, well, here, look at this figure I made of you. And she's like, wait, it doesn't have a tail. He's like, yeah, I don't really know how it's connected and how it works. So can I see it? And she's like, yeah, sure. And just pulls down her pants. And sure enough, a maid walks in. Yeah, like rock solid butt going on there. Ghislaine is amazing. So yeah, after this we have the actual celebration. He walks in and they give him a surprise birthday party. It was a really cute little party. They gave him a staff, so now he has a brand new staff, really expensive staff. So that's kind of the amazing staff that we see in a lot of the art. This is one of those great moments where I love Eris' grandpa. He just seems like a big teddy bear. So Rudy's like planned out that he's gonna act super surprised and tear up, and so he plays on the act like, oh my gosh, I thank you so much kind of thing. I thought everybody hated me here, and the grandpa's like, we're going to war. We're gonna dethrone him and put Rudy as head of the family. And they start dragging him out, and then Eris is like, I have another surprise, and Rudy's like, oh, my family's here? And he's like, oh no, we couldn't. And then suddenly Hilda comes running up and embraces him, and that's when we find out that she actually likes him, and she's like, oh no, you're our family now. You're gonna marry Eris. And so that's a big shock to everybody. Okay, apparently he's gonna marry Eris and take over the world. And then of course she gets dragged out of the situation, and then that's when we kind of start getting more into the families again, as Philip is talking to Rudy. He's like, yeah, sure. I mean, and this is one of those ones where it's like, is it over wine? Is he really serious about it? But Philip pretty much lays out that he would be perfectly fine with Rudy marrying Eris, taking over the family, and then Philip, offering to work in the background to raise a coup and actually take over the Grey Rat family and put him as head. And again, that was like one of those it's over wine moments, but he literally offered him succession to the family and to basically take over the Grey Rat family with him. And that was kind of a yeah. He's like, no, I don't want to get involved with this kind of bloodshed, which it definitely would be. That kind of a struggle would lead to a lot of death, and it's obvious he wouldn't want to be a part of that. But of course, they kind of have a beast lady walk by shortly after, and he's like, man, I could have my own harem and everything if I do that. I passed up this great offer. that was a good little add of joke at the end of the little kind of serious tone they were having with that situation they're laying out. And that's where we get to a little bit more of the risky area when Rudy returns back to his chamber. Eris is there and waiting for him, and this is one of those kind of surprisingly. What would be the best way to put this? It's one of those moments where you think that they could be really perverted about it. They could really go over wild about it. It could do something really questionable and be kind of really upsetting, but they somehow managed to put a very interesting spin to it. With Eris there, waiting for him, later on, he kind of realizes that she was there because she didn't want him to be alone on his 10th birthday. He thinks she's there to offer herself to him after they talk about marriage. And so it has this moment where he realizes that she's technically still young, but he kind of tries to it because she offers it, and before she realizes that she doesn't want it, and she steps away. But then she offers herself to him after 5 years. And so he's like, oh, sure, in 5 years, that sounds great. And then he finally remembers Selfie. That was a nice little ending moment to that as well. After this, we jump back to the Nodos family, Paul and Zenith and Lilia, as well as the 2 new kids. Sylphie is kind of going to visit them, and it was interesting in this scene. Lily, they were actually planning on sending Rudy some gifts for his 10th birthday, and Lily manages to get the little sacred treasure that Rudy left behind inside of a box she's going to send him, and we all know what that is. And this is where it kind of takes a step back, and it kind of looks at a bigger picture that's happening at the moment. We've seen this little orb above the town at some point that the grandfather was pointing out to Rudy, and it seems like mana is gathering around it. Roxy did notice it and was mentioning that it could be Rudius. So there is still a chance that Rudius being there and doing what he's doing is causing this mana gathering. So I'm curious to see if it's not just another side or just that his mana is interfering and causing this disturbance. But we'll have to see. And that's where it cuts to 2 new characters that they haven't presented before. One was obviously a dragonkin, because he had scales on his face, and a dragon came to attack him, and the dragon gave up. So obviously he has some kind of dragon blood within him. And also what called the Great Emperor of the Demon World. And of course it has to be a lolly because anime. What's sad is I actually think that this character does not fit this world. And it sucks because it technically is a character that will be fun. I like her design and everything, but I don't think that she fits this world and this setting. She looks completely foreign to it. Very anime-esque. And so I'm not sure about her being present in the show itself. I'm sure I'll probably still enjoy her. Obviously, the reason why Rudius has now learned 3 languages is so that he can speak to this character. But yeah, it just felt like she did not fit this world at all. But they're all kind of looking at this orb and how it's gathering mana. And we cut later to Pitagus, yes. And he's up in his floating castle thing. And he remarks to one of his servants, which was Almalfi, the Radiant, wants him to go down and investigate, and if he sees anybody questionable people, to kill him or dispose of them. And sure enough, of course, Rudy has to decide that day to go out with Eris and Ghislaine and show them his super big magic attack that Roxy had shown him. And yeah, this Radiant guy shows up and, of course, attacks Rudy, thinking that he's the one that is casting this spell gathering mana. He also mentions that he thinks that it resembles a light summoning spell that will release Laplace from his seal. So whatever's gathering this mana is apparently possibly trying to release Laplace into the world again. And so a lot of things are kind of building up in the situation. Of course, Ghislaine protects Rudy, fights off the Radiant guy. I'm just going to call him Radiant guy because I don't know how to say that name. Fights him off, and after kind of explaining that she's like this sword lord, he's like, okay, well, I'll trust you, but if it turns out that this boy is responsible for this, hell's going to be paid for you, interceding and whatever. So yeah, a lot of kind of stuff is building up. This mana is building up, possibly could release Laplace, which is going to be, who knows what's going to happen after that. Like I said, 2 new characters revealed. Finally get to see Pelagus, whatever his name is, and a lot of exciting stuff building up for this show itself. So, like I said, a lot of cool information released about the Grey Rat family, which I thought was really interesting. Some power struggle there, possibly Rudy being involved in it. Then, like I said, getting into these 2 new characters and everything. So, really looking for the next episode. Like I've mentioned before, technically we only have like 3 more episodes left of this season, so excited to see where this goes. But hope you guys enjoyed my impressions of this episode, and y'all take care.